do you have to be to have a level 2 Discord? Like your Discord is boosted to level 2.
Sounds like someone's
Imagine how nerdy you have to be to have
Hey, listen.
Sounds like someone's a little jealous.
I didn't pressure anybody into that. People just started doing it, and I just let it roll.
I mean, it was funny because you were talking to a couple of our friends about Discord Nitro, and I was like, I don't know, that sounds expensive. And then I just had it anyway from Game Pass that I paid $1 for.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yep.
And now we've got all the animated emojis that we could handle. No, it's 3 months.
Yeah.
I've got it till the end of the year.
If you have Discord Nitro, you get 3 months free of Game Pass PC as well.
It's wild.
That's wild.
Yeah. So I fell into this weird rabbit hole the other day, reading old video game reviews like I do. This is from the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era. And one of the things I consistently saw that I thought was kind of funny was how much lower ports were usually rated score-wise, regardless of whatever version was better. But so many times did reviewers just well, this is last year's game that I already played, so... you fucking imagine if stuff was still reviewed that way today? Each instance that, the Switch got a game, way after the fact, and the voices would reflect that.
It should be that way, though, if you think about it. Because, look at the three of us and Control, right?
Yeah.
Chris doesn't have an Xbox One X, and that game ran, absolute shit for him to the point where,
console.
Other than the fact that you also didn't like the game, Chris, but, you didn't finish it, but that game has the same score.
I honestly think if I had the opportunity to enjoy it, I probably would have, from what I've seen.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, it has one Metacritic score for Xbox One, but the Xbox One X version is playable and the Xbox One version isn't.
Well, that's why I brought up the Switch, because it's those games, more often than not, they look worse, play worse, and cost more. Instead it's everyone's favorite fucking thing ever when an edition of anything gets announced for it.
You have to add 3 points because you can play it handheld.
Yeah, there's even a Twitter account that parodies.
Yeah.
Bring it to the Switch, but no, I know what you mean, and I guess there is a little bit of a boost because you are able to do something with it that you can't on any other platform and have it
not anymore. xCloud, baby.
Yeah, but I still think that Nintendo curve is real, and I do think that once the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X were out, all the reviews from that point out were for those platforms specifically.
But they rarely ever test them. Digital Foundry is such a great resource because
they still do.
Crash Bandicoot 4, which came out a couple days ago as of this recording.
And I just found out about it 2 days ago or whatever. I had no fucking clue. We were just sitting in Discord and a friend of ours was like, oh yeah, the new Crash. And me and Jason were just like, wait, what? We're just oh.
But that game has great reviews. And then I watched the Digital Foundry thing and they're like, yeah, the performance is not good on PS4 and Xbox One. But it's a full 60 frames on the other ones. And it's I never saw that in any review.
That's the thing. If it is your job to review games, or if you're working for an outlet to do that stuff, you're going to have access to the newest platforms, and that is forever what your experience with new products are going to be is the latest and greatest. Do you think there's still people?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's the same thing with people playing on older video cards or on old VR sets. It's
It makes a huge difference. I think there should definitely I do see it in a lot of reviews. If you see a good reviewer, you will see somebody just be it runs a little shit here, or this mainly is we did run this on an Xbox One X, so it does have this sort of performance, but
yeah,
I think it needs to be more baked into it, honestly, because
I agree.
With PC gaming, there's such a
it's almost impossible
of people who have access to things.
Yeah, and if obviously all of these sites that that we talk about all the time are probably have the best PC hardware available. If you are a full-time editor for IGN or GameSpot, you're gonna have the newest VR helmet, or headset, and you're gonna have that was the latest cards.
Side note, I got very upset, and I'm sure one specific listener that I know of, but a lot of listeners will take issue with this, but there's been a lot of talk of Hades, which we started playing.
Hell yeah.
Being the game of the year this year, and I completely agree with that. I absolutely love Hades. And Dan Stapleton, who is like the editor, not the editor-in-chief, but he might be editor-in-chief now. I don't know. IGN's weird now, but he is very high up in the reviews part of IGN. And he's like, I've seen a lot of people talking about how Hades is game of the year. And he's like, I don't really think it's game of the year material. It just goes to show that a lot of you haven't played Half-Life Alyx. And the comments are just like, no
we
shit,
fucking
dude.
Can't.
Hades costs $20 and Half-Life Alyx costs $1,060. Like, go fuck yourself, dude. He's like, and they're like, we don't doubt it's a Half-Life game made by Valve, and the reviews were great. I'm sure it probably is actually the game of the year.
I don't know.
But in the grand scheme of things,
know.
it's not going to be talked about in Game of the Year conversations amongst the general public because of the barrier to entry.
It's
and
not fair.
Even people who can afford it. Like I mentioned our friend and listener, Andrew.
I think that is his game of the year.
It's his game of the year, and I'm sure he's not wrong about that. It is a Half-Life game, and he played it, and he convinced his brother to also play it, but his brother wanted to play it on the Valve Index, and so he bought a Valve Index.
It took a month.
He's finally playing it, but I think he bought that thing in May and got it in like September or some crazy shit like that. It's like, yes, I'm sure Half-Life Alyx is game of the year, and God, do I wish I could play it, but...
Yo, can you fucking imagine if it was like that for like music? It's like, well, this record costs like this much. So like,
well, no, it would be like if a record came out and they're like,
or movies. Yeah.
It sounds like shit on a iPod headphones, but like if you have like a $10,000 stereo system, this is the album of the year. It's like, well, I don't. So
well, no, it's not even that, because it's like, it's not like I could play Half-Life Alyx for the cheap. You know, like
you can.
Well,
you could get an Oculus Quest for like $300, and that's comparatively cheap.
Sure. Well, I mean, it still demands
Mark Zuckerberg.
It still demands
his
space,
empire.
And
yeah,
you know,
it does. It is way more, and $300 is cheap, but not especially for like when I look at a game like Hades. That comparison, you know what I mean? This is not even close.
All right. And we're back with another special bonus episode for our 2020 Halloween season. Initially, the way the weeks lined up this year, it was just going to be the 2, but then Austin insisted with this gnarly story that I honestly know very little about. So I'm going to be going on the journey with you guys, really, as we learn and get scared together. A year ago, we covered one of gaming's biggest urban legends ever, Polybius. We were saying probably probably well known. Yeah. Finding out that sometimes the truth can be even stranger than the fiction that surrounds it. Though what about these smaller mysteries? One that on the surface could just be passed off as a simple campfire tale, except underneath a bizarre investigation covered in obsession, lies, and conspiracies. This is Hot Button. I'm Randall Beatrice, here as always with Austin Blakesley.
Ooh.
And Chris Antuano.
It's a me. Remember that? Remember that from way back?
That's not spooky.
Oh, that's right. I just got to do what did I do last time?
Cackle like a witch.
Yeah, witch cackle. All right, hold on. I got something here. I'll put my keyboard up to the mic. This is. I mean, this is bones. There's some bones crinkling on the floor.
Oh my God,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Now that's scary.
Oh, finally my $80 RGB keyboard is worth something.
It was like a very expensive joke, but it was good.
So what the hell is up with today's topic? I only know of like maybe the very beginning, and then deliberately refrained from looking up literally anything else past that, as per your instructions. So
yes,
are you gonna pull a Kowloon on us, or
we'll see? Okay, so I started looking into gaming urban legends.
Did you find the nude cheat for the Lara Croft or Tomb Raider? Is it?
I started looking into video game urban legends after we did our Polybius episode, and I found a lot of listicles.
The Minus World is real.
And in those listicles was a lot of like, oh, did you know that like Lavender Town was a graveyard and shit? That's wild, dude. But the top 3 were
gotta have that music playing.
The top 3 were always 3 of the same games. Number 1 is obviously always Polybius.
Never heard of it.
Number 2 and 3 were Pale Luna.
Okay.
And Kill Switch.
Oh, the PS2
No.
like cover shooter.
Different kill switch. more check than that kill switch.
Who developed that game?
The cover shooter, or I don't know.
I was like, you don't know where they're from. They could be from
It's true, they could.
the Czech Republic.
But I decided to look into Pale Luna. Now, Pale Luna, for those of you that don't know, is a video game creepypasta. It's just a scary, like Randy said, scary campfire story about video games.
Not a very threatening name.
No. So I'm actually going to start this episode and read to you the creepypasta.
Okay.
And then we'll get a little bit into the investigation afterwards.
So I guess neither was a Pet Scop or Ben's game. They don't actually sound that scary unless you
No.
like so.
Okay. In the last decade and a half, it's become infinitely easier to obtain exactly what you're looking for by way of a couple keystrokes. The internet has made it all too simple to use a computer to change reality. An abundance of information is merely a search engine away, to the point where it's hard to imagine life as any different. Yet, a generation ago, when the words streaming and torrent were meaningless, save for conversations about water, people met face-to-face to conduct software swaps, trading games, and applications on Sharpie-labeled 5.25-inch floppies. Of course, most of the time, the meets were a way for frugal, community-minded individuals to trade popular games such as King's Quest or Maniac Mansion amongst themselves. However, a few early programming talents designed their own computer games to share amongst their circle of acquaintances, who in turn would pass it on until, if fun and well-designed enough, an independently developed game had its place in the collection of aficionados across the country. Think of it as the 80s equivalent of a viral video. Pale Luna, on the other hand, was never circulated outside of the San Francisco Bay Area. All known copies have been long disposed of. All computers that have ever run the game now detritus, buried under layers of filth and polystyrene. The fact is attributed to a number of rather abstruse design choices made by the programmer. Pale Luna is a text adventure in the vein of Zork or The Lurking Horror.
Zork!
At a time when said genre was swiftly going out of fashion. Upon booting the program, the player was presented with a screen almost completely blank except for the text. You are in a dark room. Moonlight shines through the window. There is gold in the corner,
Luna.
along with a shovel and a rope. There is a door to the east. Command. So begin the game that one writer for a long out-of-print fanzine decried as enigmatic, nonsensical, and completely unplayable, as the only commands that the game would accept were pick up gold, pick up shovel, pick up rope, open door, and go east. The player was soon presented with the following. Reap your reward. Pale Luna smiles at you. You're in a forest. There are paths to the northwest and east. Command. What quickly infuriated the few who've played the game was the confusing and buggy nature of the second screen onward. Only one of the directional decisions would be the correct one. For example, on this occasion, a command to go in the direction other than north would lead to the system freezing, requiring the operator to hard reboot the entire computer. Further, any subsequent screens seem to merely repeat the above text, with the difference being only the directions available. Worse still, the standard text adventure commands appeared to be useless. The only accepted non-movement related prompts were use gold, which would display the message not here, use shovel, which displayed not now, and use rope, which prompted you've already used this.
Sounds like a text-based adventure, all right.
Mm-hmm. Most who played the game progressed a couple screens into it before becoming fed up by having to constantly reboot and just tossed the disc in disgust, writing off the experience as a shoddily programmed farce. However, there's one thing about the world of computers that remains true, no matter the era. Some people who use them have way too much time on their hands. A young man by the name of Michael Nevins decided to see if there was more to Pale Luna than met the eye. 5 hours and 33 screens worth of trial and error unplugging computer cords later, he finally managed to make the game display different text. The text in this new area read, Pale Luna smiles wide. There are no paths. Pale Luna smiles wide. The ground is soft. Pale Luna smiles wide. Here. Command.
And now he's dead.
Hold on. It was another hour before Nevins stumbled upon the proper combination of phrases to make the game progress any further. Those were dig hole, drop gold, fill hole. This caused the screen to display congratulations, 40.24248, negative 121.4434, upon which the game ceased to accept commands,
unlocked,
requiring Nevins to reboot the computer one last time. After some deliberation, Nevins came to the conclusion that the numbers referred to lines of latitude and longitude, and the coordinates led to a point in the sprawling forest that dominated the nearby Lassen Volcanic Park. As he possessed much more free time than sense, Nevins vowed to see Pale Luna through to its ending. The next day,
he lucked out that it was that close.
Yeah. The next day, armed with a map, a compass, and a shovel, he navigated the park's trails, noting with amusement how each turn he made corresponded roughly to those that he took in game. Though he initially regretted bringing the cumbersome digging tool on a mere hunch, the past similarity all but confirmed his suspicion that the journey would end with him face to face with an eccentric buried treasure. Out of breath, after a tricky struggle with the coordinates, he was pleasantly surprised by a little stumble upon a patch of uneven dirt. Shoveling as excitedly as he was, it would be an understatement to say that he was taken aback when his heavy strokes unearthed a badly decomposing head of a blonde-haired little girl. Nevins promptly reported the situation to the authorities. The girl was identified as Karen Paulson, age 11, reported as missing to the San Diego Police Department a year and a half earlier. Efforts were made to track down the programmer of Pale Luna, but the nearly anonymous legal gray area in which software swapping operated in inescapably led to many dead ends. Collectors have been known to offer upwards of 6 figures for an authentic copy of the game. The rest of Karen's body was never found. And that is the story of Pale Luna.
No, that's geocaching, dude.
Dude, I got fucking goosebumps, bro.
And a skeleton jumped out. Honestly, I like the setup of that a lot, where it's kind of like poetic in its kind of portrayal of like what rare media used to be.
Exactly.
Like the whole idea of people who used to distribute like those communities that would like pass around tapes and CDs and you know, a lot of horror stuff. And that was like, you know, when you look back at even the way that bands like Nine Inch Nails would do guerrilla marketing was through shit like that. And it was there's an eeriness to it. And
so before we begin the investigation, do you guys have any memories or experiences with creepypastas?
Yes.
Okay.
I was young once.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I like
Yeah.
I like skateboarding and drugs. I don't like scary shit.
You can like skateboarding, drugs, and scary shit.
I wasn't a big horror fan, so these creepypastas
Look at Deadly Premonition. It's got all 3 of those.
They used to kind of freak me out. I never really read them, but
there's something to collaborative like storytelling on the internet that's really cool. Like, you know, you kind of don't know where things come from. And obviously the, you know, your bigger ones like Slender Man kind of take over in a way that just sort of become like you just sort of shrug your shoulders at it. But
the enemy from Minecraft?
That's Enderman. He's in Smash Brothers now.
It's true. I think who is it? It's great.
Yeah, it's true.
It's Enderman.
I can't wait for that update next week. It's gonna be great. But yeah, no, I used to dabble in what was it? It was /X on 4chan was their paranormal boards, and then Reddit. Oh God, what was the name of? Can't think of it, but yes, to answer your question, when you look at stuff like SCP and everything, that was huge. Like back when we were in high school.
Yeah.
Oh, I like the SCPs. Does that count as creepypasta? Because I do like those.
Yeah, that's like the very definition of kind of like people building off of an original idea and sort of just making it its own like.
I wrote a couple
universe.
SCPs too.
Yeah, and you know the quality of those can vary because some people are better writers than others, but they can be they can keep you up late. And like
there's like four good SCPs.
Yeah, like I said, I was never huge into creepypastas, but there was something about Pale Luna that intrigued me. I'm not a horror person, but I am a video game person.
Yeah, initially when you pitched it to me, I wasn't sure at first, and then just hearing some of the craziness that you're about to get into,
yes,
this felt different. That's when I was on board. I was like, okay.
Yes. Now, I also have a penchant to scroll down to the comments of anything on the internet because I hate myself. So
that's where we differ.
This is what really piqued my interest. I scrolled down to the comments to arrive at a bunch of arguments as to whether or not this story was real. Now, I, of course, not being a fan of creepypastas, did not know. I was under the impression that they're obviously fiction.
Well, do you want to assume that anything that you read that's scary isn't real?
Well,
I want to believe.
I know, but there's a lot of people commenting on the plausibility of the story, trying to poke holes in the details.
Right,
But I was more shocked at the people giving credibility to it. It almost read like people role playing.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, like
that's why I brought up the /X and what some of those subreddits used to be. I mean, obviously with 4chan before, a bunch of horrible people took over that site, but yeah, it's like I don't know. There's something about this sort of everyone is in on it mentality but then you can't tell just what level of dedication that everyone's on.
Yeah, so I decided, out of sheer curiosity, to dig a little deeper. One quick Google search for Pale Luna would provide pretty fruitful. Obviously, there were countless numbers of listicles, like I mentioned, about the scariest urban legends and stories in video games. Cool. And like I said, a lot of video game Easter eggs and a lot of Pale Luna, a lot of Kill Switch, and of course, Polybius. Mm-hmm. Next up in the digging, not one, but 2 IMDb pages for short films named Pale Luna. I would go on to find that both of them are, in fact, based on the creepypasta.
Huh. That's interesting.
The first one, a French film made in 2016.
Wow, it got that far. Okay.
And the second one was an American film made in 2018 in South Dakota.
I didn't know about either of these.
The search also turned up a podcast.
South Dakota's a state, if you didn't know about that.
Yeah.
If that's what you're referring to.
I mean, I guess nobody owns this name or idea. Like, that's why people can expand on it.
A search for the second film, because I wanted to watch it since it was a short film, I couldn't find it. But it did turn up a podcast where they interviewed the director of the short film, since it was entered into something called the Laugh and Slash Film Festival in South Dakota in 2019.
Awesome.
Basically, the guy knew about creepypastas and he knew of video games, but he did not play video games. He was just looking for a horror film to make.
Okay.
And make cheaply.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to acquire...
He happened upon the creepypasta, changed up a few things to make it work better as a film, and apparently got entered into some festivals and is working on a sequel as we speak.
Huh.
Called Pale Dawn or something.
Marvel's...
This, of course, led me into YouTube, where a search for Pale Luna would, as with any creepypasta, reveal a ton of YouTube videos. Most of them reenactments, some animated reenactments, some physical reenactments, some people doing Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I feel like it's tough to hit on the initial level of just reading a weird internet story. Like that's where the kind of the true put yourself in the shoes of
some of them were literally people around a campfire telling each other the story and talking about it. Some of them were old Windows Movie Maker style things with weird GIFs that would star wipe away.
And I kind of wonder how what liberties they took, or if they just sort of literalized that sort of core story.
Yeah. And not without a couple analysis videos, sort of breaking down the story and how it could be valid, which led to the gold mine, aka Reddit. I found
that's what I call it.
I found a lot of Reddit threads about the story, how it could have happened, what it meant, what the author / person was trying to say, figure out, whatever.
Yeah, so this was boiled down to one individual who started the story, right? Was his identity just well known at this point, or no? Because a lot of creepypastas kind of begin with some anonymity before.
Yeah, I think it was anonymous. Nobody knew who the author was. For them. Yeah. But I stumbled upon a Reddit post in r/creepygaming.
Yes.
Titled, I found a physical copy of Pale Luna, posted by Vladimir Lenin's Mummy on January 6, 2017.
I hate to cut you off, but r/creepygaming was where I started my digging on Hong Kong 97, because the guy that I think that came up also in our story, because that what was his name, Healthy Gamer or something, the guy that actually did find a copy posted it in there.
Yeah.
So it's hey, sometimes legitimate shit is
right, exactly. So somebody is claiming they have a legitimate copy of Pale Luna.
Yeah.
Now, the Reddit thread text reads as follows. I'll prefix everything I'm saying by saying this story is 100% true. Not that it's exceptionally unbelievable. It's just no one seems to believe anything on the internet anymore. Can't blame them, honestly.
I think that's what makes it so creepy, is that there's a true crime element to it, not a spiritual... Yeah.
That's precisely what made it creepy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyways, story time. The other day I was at a local estate sale. I wasn't expecting to find anything that exciting, just maybe a few games or something. Everyone around here is super old, and most yard sales are mostly glassware with some questionable furniture. Luckily, there was one small box of 10 to 15 DOS games on floppy disks. I leafed through them and saw a disc in there with a pretty lazily scrawled homemade label that said Pale Luna. I was pretty sure I heard of the name before, so I picked it up with the rest of the games with the intention of looking it up later. To my surprise, I found out that the game is the subject of a gaming creepypasta that I had read a few years ago. I was a little spooked, to be honest. Regardless, I loaded it up and discovered that it is a fully playable MS-DOS game. It plays just like it was described in the creepypasta. I have no idea if this is the original game or a fan recreation, but whatever, it's pretty darn convincing. Here's a picture of the floppy with my username to prove it. It's original or whatever. Pardon the poor lighting and low camera quality. I've got awful lights and an awful phone, LOL. If anyone's interested in the files, I can copy them off the floppy and put them up for download. Pretty sure they're virus free, but I've also never heard of someone getting a virus from DOSBox.
I'd be so into this thread.
Also, I've only gotten to screen 7 before I got bored of trial and erroring it. The directions I wrote down were north, south, southeast, north, north. Edit. Here's a download link, and then there's a link to a Dropbox of the game.
I mean, what's interesting it's like one of the first things that came to my mind was like, oh, maybe he made something, he was inspired by it, and then wrote this fiction to go along with it, because that happened a lot with the Polybius stuff.
Yeah.
There's like, you can download, various ROMs that people
there's an
made.
official Polybius game.
There is
too,
now,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, would it crash the computer in the same way that it did in the past? That kind of removed some of the
That's a good point.
It would crash DOSBox.
toughness from it.
Oh, right.
It would
So
crash the emulator. But the thing about emulators is that DOSBox specifically, there are some emulators specifically made for games like Zork because there are fail states and you can rewind a command instead of just restarting. So that would help a lot with the trial and erroring of the thing. It's not going to freeze your whole computer. You don't have to unplug your computer and plug it back in.
I've only ever used DOSBox a little bit, but it's been a while.
That's what I was saying. That sort of dedication to that's what kind of made
the craft. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I have to finish this. I need to see what's at the end. It's got to be difficult to get to.
And then he's like, I actually got to go out and kill someone.
Yeah.
It just inspires.
There were some comments under the Reddit thread about the validity of the copy of the game.
Of course.
Of it not being original. A lot of talk about the game being from the 80s. And the picture posted showed a floppy disk with zero wear and tear, a fresh white label with Pale Luna scribbled very creepily with a pen.
Hey, the similar thing happened with Hong Kong.
Yep.
The
rest of the thread is people trying to figure out the correct instructions to actually finish the game since the guy uploaded a version of it. Mm-hmm. The game, much like the game from the original story, would crash if the correct input was given, or I guess it would crash DOSBox. Although, through trial and error, users were able to beat the game. The game was coded in Z code, the same language used to code Zork, and through the help of Frotz.
Is that what the Z stands for?
Yeah. Dumb. That whole sentence was dumb.
A DOSBox emulator built for allowing you to rewind in text-based games for fail states. The final commands were discovered, which led to the same screen of congratulations followed by the same longitude and latitude coordinates.
So are those coordinates actually real? Like they're like
yes.
Okay.
If you look up those coordinates, it does lead to Lassen Volcanic Park in San Francisco. Yes.
All right.
And it does lead to the middle of a forest.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Which we'll get to a little bit of that investigation in a bit. The comment of it actually being beaten with screenshots of the final thing led to a thread of people saying someone should go dig up whatever's there. Led to an argument about whether or not the story was real, obviously. And if it was, there's not going to be anything there. The cops already recovered the head. They're not going to bury it again, right?
Oh, man. If this person orchestrated this whole thing, what would they hide there?
But also, if it isn't true, somebody who made this fake version might have buried someone there as some sort of weird geocaching ARG kind of game.
That's it's San Francisco, right? You said, So that's some Zodiac copy killer shit. That city has a history of.
This led to the guy who solved the game agreeing to go. Others warning him that, hey, maybe don't go alone. Which led to a follow-up post by that same user
at the very least.
in r/ARG asking if anybody wanted to go with him to the coordinates.
This is good.
Unfortunately, there were no comments on that post, and I do not know if that guy actually went
God, that's
or
so
if
much
he's
worse.
still alive. But these posts also led me to a 6-minute YouTube video from August 2017 titled Pale Luna Coordinates Proof. Which consists of a guy breathing very heavily into a mic and a computer being filmed from the screen. looking up the coordinates that show that they do indeed lead to Lassen Volcanic Park, trying to zoom in to see if he could find a uneven pile of dirt. And then later trying to look up San Diego police records to see if he could find any record of a Karen Paulson.
This is going a little too far.
With no luck, obviously, because
in a way that I'm into.
Police records are not exactly public.
Yeah, I think it actually ranges by county sometimes, and there has to be a certain amount of, like, a date when that actually becomes available. And obviously cases can't be open.
The only thing that turned up was a real estate agent in her looks to be late 50s, early 60s, named Karen Paulson from the San Diego Bay, or San Francisco Bay Area.
They didn't start harassing her, did they?
I don't know.
Where's your head?
Yeah. And finally, to the last bit of investigation on my part, I found another Reddit thread by a user simply named Anon5037.
That's a little suspicious.
Saying that they were making a game based on the story of Pale Luna.
Wait, which story? Like the meta? Like I'm kind of lost.
The creepypasta.
Right.
They were trying to make the game.
There kind of already was a game. Okay.
Let me get there.
All right.
They were asking some YouTuber, whose Reddit page this was, if they would do a playthrough of it, since that YouTuber had previously posted a reading of the story, but they got no response. This was, however, posted a few weeks before the post of the user who found a copy at an estate sale. And the name being Anon5037.
Yeah, they could have done
kind of suspicious. Yep. But that is unfortunately the dead end of my investigation into Pale Luna. Like I said, all these posts come up as dead ends. As far as I can tell, no one actually made it to the spot or dug up anything.
Come on,
or
let's
at
go
least
and
posted anything about it.
Let's go and record
Let's get a San Francisco plane ticket.
Yeah. Live document. Hot button exclusive.
Or maybe they did go and they died. Ooh.
All the more reason for us to check it out.
Except I left out the most important bit of my investigation. Tricked you. If you navigate your way back to the original Creepypasta wiki page where I copied the story from, you will find the story is accredited to one
Stephen King.
Mikael Honorides. If you click on the writer's name, the link leads to a Something Awful forum post entitled Video Game Hoaxes and Urban Legends. The first post in the thread is about two things, Kill Switch and, of course, Polybius. The link leads specifically to page 55 of the over 300-page thread.
We should have known. I mean, they made Slender Man.
From a user named Mizu0 on January 13th, 2011. The post reads, since this thread segged into a microfiction thread, here's one I wrote a while back, and continues in its entirety with the text of the story of Pale Luna.
It's funny because I've been a kind of a goon of Something Awful for a long time. Some of our friends, much more closely involved with that world than me. But what's funny about a lot of like the forums, like threads like this, is like they're frequently interjected with people who aren't role playing it. Like they kind of have contempt for themselves in a way that like they propagate all these like fun stories, but then it's like nobody hates Slender Man more than Something Awful.
Exactly.
So
here's the thing.
It's very funny.
So investigation over. It's a Something Awful thing, just like Slender Man.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you how some people want so badly to be part of some weird mystery investigation that they ignore the most obvious piece of evidence that's right in front of their eyes, which is a credit to where the post is originally from on the main page of the Creepypasta wiki.
Yeah. But what's funny is I kind of get it. That's why I was saying, it's like, sure, like some people do become obsessive to the point that like things become real to them. But at the same time, we all have a desire to be interesting. Like, it's...
However...
Oh, God, is there more to this, too?
No. Right. Well, kind of. You know what doesn't have its origins on Something Awful?
Oh.
Kill Switch.
Engage.
No. Although this was very hard to Google because of that fucking band.
Not because of the other video game, but because of the band.
That didn't come up.
Yeah.
Although if you do Google Kill Switch game, that does come up.
I found out it was Namco, by the way. Weirdly
was it?
Enough. Yeah, it says even developed by, which is it was ahead of its time, that game.
So, of course, my curiosity once again piqued. If Something Awful doesn't even know where Kill Switch is from, then where the hell is Kill Switch from? If Something Awful is putting Kill Switch on the same level as Polybius and discussing it, then there's got to be an interesting story there, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out next week on part 2. when I cover my investigation into Kill Switch.
Sweet. Woo.
Yeah.
No, that's fucking wild. Part of the
That's a fucking great story.
Yeah, because like a part of the what made me want to do Polybius was it was like, well, I'm already going into this sort of knowing the ending, but then it just sort of kept that story just kept branching off and growing into its own thing. Like, it's just it's sort of like
It's this
the fiction builds its own reality.
It's this weird unsolved mystery where the metafiction becomes more interesting than the fiction itself.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, we'll come back next week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. This is, like Randy said, this is a bonus. We wanted to do 4 Halloween episodes.
Yeah.
Because
that's what we had last year.
Rarely get to do our spooky hot button stories, and we're going to fit in as many as we possibly can. So
giving you guys a whole month full.
This is a bit of a shorter episode, and I'm assuming next episodes.
No, I'm excited.
On Kill Switch will probably also be shorter, but tune in to hear the thrilling conclusion of my lazy research into 2 gaming creepypastas
Austin's
that I did while not wearing pants.
Creepy fettuccine corner.
That was a dig at me being Italian, and I don't appreciate it.
I'm also Italian.
Are you, though?
And so is Chris.
We've already been over this on the podcast.
Your last name is English.
It's Anglo-Saxon, sir.
You've seen his hair? It's not about his last name. It's about his mop.
Yeah, my mop is very Italian. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Are You Afraid of the Dark? If this is your first episode of Hot Button, we have...
Dumb. Why'd you start on episode whatever?
Yeah. If you're into spooky shit, we have...
Yeah, a lot of spooky
shit. At this point, like 6 episodes full of spooky shit. You can go on to hotbuttoncast.com. There's a new collections tab, and if you click on that, you will find our Halloween collection, which I will be adding these episodes to and more. We covered Polybius, we covered Shinrikyo, Devotion, Help Me Out, The Madden Curse, Resident Evil.
Yeah.
And what was the other Halloween one?
Hong Kong.
Wait, Hong Kong 97.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, it's like,
right, we mentioned that. That's a great episode and comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And then
Weirdly
if you're
enough.
interested in video game stories that aren't spooky, or some of them that still are, like our Tetris 4-parter, gets a little spooky sometimes.
Hell yeah, it does.
When Russia gets involved, things get spooky.
It's always spooky.
You can find all those and more on our website. You can also find us on any podcast service that you want. Just look up Hot Button Podcast. And also, you can find us on social media. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Hot Button Cast. We will keep you up to date with what episodes are coming. Again, like I said, next week we have...
Yeah, come on back. You don't have to wait 2 weeks, so...
Finish the little saga here. And then November, we'll be having some specials on the Xbox launch, as well as...
Thanksgiving video game.
Our 2-year anniversary.
Oh my God.
Yep. So, yeah, thank you for listening, and tune in next week to hear what Something Awful has to say about Kill Switch.